In this video, we're going to talk about Hacksaw, and I'll be explaining how you can use Hacksaw. What are the best decks for Hacksaw? To read it till the end. This is the ultimate Hacksaw guide you needed.
Let's start with understanding Hacksaw's ability. Hacksaw is a rare ground hero. Sawmill, his first ability, where he throws in a sawmill on ground which deals an area effect for a certain time, which is pretty good to kill some enemies. Timber, which is an insta-kill, but not really insta-kill because it has 80% chance, so you can use this against high HP enemies and get great value of it. And Flying Sawblade, it's a decent ability, it can attack flyers too, so sometimes if you need it, you can gamble it like so. I usually like to use Hacksaw in front lanes and in an aggressive manner. I usually focus on making him use his ability on swarm enemies first and then snipe out that one good high HP enemy out if there is any and get rid of him as soon as possible. Yet it's not 100% guaranteed, but you can always try it out against enemies to just get a good value out of it. And at the end of the day, Hacksaw is pretty decent HP, and even when it comes to speed, he is pretty fast. Not the fastest, but pretty fast enough to use. He's really good in Onslaught, one of the best free-to-play heroes to use in Onslaught, if I have to be honest, after Allura I would consider. So you can always rely on Hacksaw, whether that's in Onslaught or the normal ranked matches, but I would prefer you to use him more on Onslaught compared to normal matches, because in normal matches Teardray, Allura are kind of better than Hacksaw, but it depends on the deck. So now let's take a look at the decks. Okay, so this is the deck which is good in Onslaught and normal matches. In normal matches, I would rather prefer you to use Musketeers instead of the Royal Archers. You can swap out them. If you have Hunter Outpost, it's even more better in my opinion, because they have high DPS even at low tiers as for an Archer Tower. So you can rather use those two combinations to just place it into this deck, or you can use something else if you don't have any of these cards. But it's very free to play friendly too if you think about it. There's nothing to do with the levels, it just works. This hard counters not only the dragon users if with Musketeers, but also counters Necromancer very well. You can just reverse Uno with your opponent so easily. It's highly satisfying if you can understand how to use it. So rather in Onslaught, I would go for you to get yourself Archmage at the back and then start upgrading your Royal Archers to at least the tier 2 to get a decent amount of range damage covered at a spot from which it can attack two of the lanes. Example, it depends on many maps, but you can see on the screen how it would possibly look like. Artillery to support Hacksaw in dealing splash area damage and just clearing out lane which has a lot of swarm enemies compared to the other. And you know the deal, you just max out the Archmage as soon as possible and just get the enemies which are annoying for you swapped out on the opponent's side, which is perfect. Here is a second deck which I really like to use with Hacksaw. This is a very aggressive deck. I usually would tell you to avoid using defensive type decks with Hacksaw, because at the end of the day, as per the meta, at the moment you are just gonna get overwhelmed by the enemies at the end of the day. Usually in this type of deck, I normally create one choke point part from which enemies just can't pass through. You will have to time your polymorph, your thunder very much well. Same goes for the icy ground too. You need to clump up as many enemies as possible and then use it, because against enemies which are high HP, you're gonna suffer against, especially in Stormcloud Mountain if you're using this deck. Although you can time things well and understand when to use which ability and what tower needs to be focused on upgrading the most situation, you're just basically fine. I normally use Ice Druid to clump up enemies and then use my polymorph on it and deal as much damage as possible through Hacksaw. That's something what I personally like to do and find helpful too while doing it. So that's how you basically make use of Hacksaw in this deck to say the least. And if you get an opportunity to overwhelm your opponent, Necromancer is always there. Same goes for Ice Druid, so you can just make use of each tower depending on your opponent. As for Hacksaw counters, you can basically counter Hacksaw quite easily. As for boosters, I would say Trollzerker hard counters it, and the Golems hard counters it too. Melee heroes in the meta in Kingdomish battles at the moment are quite bad, yet Hacksaw still stands off very good in the meta. So I would say anything which can just damage him very much faster or is not able to insta-kill is something which hard counters Hacksaw the most, I would say. You can also use Musketeers or something to hard counter it, but yeah, at the end of the day, this is what I think. If you're looking for an Onslaught Hacksaw deck which is really good performing too, you can check out the video I have linked in the description. Make sure you check that one out. But for more, consider subscribing, comment what would you like to see next, and until there, keep on rushing.